opportunity to sit in this committee to look at the processes, the election processes that are put in order to identify members of the Kenyan people who will represent Kenya in the East African Community Assembly. And therefore, Madam Speaker, we request the House to adopt this report on the basis that this is a committee of this House, and so we've been out there working for them and prepared a report. And basically, Madam Speaker, the report we are presenting to this House is that of guiding the election of the members to Yala. It's good to remember, Madam Speaker, that in the last Fourth Assembly, Kenya, as a partner state of the East African Community, delayed in presenting the names of their 9 nominees to Yala. And that occasioned a delay of 6 months to the calendar of the Fourth Assembly. So this time round, Madam Speaker, this House or Parliament of Kenya has gone ahead to try and fit into the program of East African Community so that we do not delay that process or that House again. And that is the reason why, Madam Speaker, the strict timelines that were put for the election of these members or the nomination of the members to be elected, we as a committee tried to abide by it. As you've heard my co-chair move, we started on the 25th of October, and by the 12th of November, Madam Speaker, we were almost done with that process of guiding the election process. And so here today, we are presenting to this House the names of the nominees that will be considered for election as members of the Yala Assembly from Kenya. That election, as we've been advised by the Speaker, will be conducted on Thursday of this week. And in the calendar of the elections, Madam Speaker, these members will be required to actually be transmitted on the 18th of November to the East African Legislative Assembly. The names of those who will have been voted on Thursday, the 17th, will be presented on the same day, and on the 18th, these members will be proceeding to Arusha in order to, the names will be taken to Arusha in order to be ready to be enjoined with the others. It is also informed, we were also informed, Madam Speaker, that the rest of the partner states have actually nominated their members, and therefore they are ready. And this assembly, therefore the 5th Assembly, will be in a position to actually take off within the required time. Madam Speaker, the process of nomination, identifying the advertisement of the positions to the public so that they can apply, followed very strict timeline. If you look at the way the advert came out, the members of the public had only 7 days to be able to make the application, and from that time when the advert was put out on the 26th of October up to the 2nd, then the calendar kept running without resting, without any gaps in between, where the members put in the application by the 2nd, the vetting process was undertaken within 1 week. Within the 1 week after the applications were put in, the parties were called upon to be able to scrutinize the names of the members that had applied. And Madam Speaker and the House, a total of 348 applicants actually put in their applications, as the co-chair said. Most of them under the party candidates, but a good number of them, I think 69 if I remember the numbers, were independent candidates. And it was unfortunate that some of the applicants, particularly the independent ones, almost all of them, were unable to meet the IBC threshold of independent candidates as required by law in this country. And that is how we've ended up not having one single candidate being presented to this House as an independent candidate. We've ended up having to have a ballot paper that is going to have two sets of names, Madam Speaker and the House. Those two sets will be for the coalitions that are in this House or represented in this House. 15 of them from Kenya Kwanza coalition and 12 of them for the Azimio La Umoja coalition, where members of this House are going to have the opportunity to pick or elect 5 out of the 15 for the Kenya Kwanza coalition and 4 out of the 12 for the Azimio La Umoja coalition, and that will give us our 9 members to be sent to the East African Legislative Assembly representing Kenya. Madam Speaker, as a committee or a joint committee of Parliament, we had the opportunity to interact with the rules that govern the elections of the YALA members, and some of the observations that we made as a committee, we have presented, or my co-chair has already presented some of those recommendations to the House, that it would be important that the Joint Select Committee, going forward in future, be given a more prominent role, Madam Chair, particularly so on questions of looking at the nomination lists right from the onset, so that they can appreciate what the members of the public who are applying are actually going through. Because the ones who are given that task were actually the presiding officers, who in this case were the clerks of the 2 houses. Madam Speaker, it is going to be important to give a formal campaign time to the members that are going to be elected. Otherwise, without interacting with those members, it might be difficult for the members here to be able to actually elect some of these members. And so, Madam Chair, going forward in the future, that platform needs to be considered so that the members of Parliament are able to elect from a point of knowledge. Madam Speaker, with those many remarks, I want to second and say the report is before the House, ready for voting on Thursday. Thank you.
Honourable members, I therefore propose the question that pursuant to the provisions of Article 50 of the Treaty for the Establishment of the East African Community and Rule 13.5 of the East African Legislative Assembly elections of members of the Assembly rules, this House adopts the report of the Joint Select Committee on the election of members to the East African Legislative Assembly on its consideration of the names and nomination papers of the duly nominated candidates for election as members of East African Legislative Assembly laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. Give this chance to Honorable Member for Bureti.